All right, good morning. So today it's Driving with Steven Day, and we're going to be talking a little bit about, we're going to talk about the differences between chair rental, aka being an independent stylist, and being an employee. They're both like in our industry right now, it's like huge. It's like what everybody's doing. It's like, well, in our industry, it's been a history of over time, people either been independent or they've been employees. So what we want to talk about today is a little bit about when to choose what. Now, first of all, why do you even want to listen to me? You know, what do I have to share? What I think it's important to understand a little bit about where I'm coming from. So first of all, I am a hairdresser. I do hair behind the chair 5 days a week. I started off as an apprentice and worked in a employee-based salon. And so I was an employee for about 13 years. And then I went and when I left that salon, I went into becoming an independent hairdresser. This was about almost 20 years ago. And so 20 years ago, I became an independent hairdresser. And I had two reasons to do this. One, I wanted to start building and growing my own brand. Two, I wanted to be able to start planning and making sure that I understood what I was doing so that I could open my own business and actually open my own employee-based hair salon. And I think it's important to look at, those are my main reasons to become an independent hairdresser. So I then was an independent hairdresser for about a year and a half. And in that process, I spent the time learning and understanding finance, organization, inventory control, software systems, computers, etc. So again, 20 years ago, there was just starting with computer systems in the salon. There was no cell phones for booking. It was easy. So we had to do everything on paper and pencil. You know, back in the old archaic days, it was crazy. So now what we ended up doing is all right, learned all the systems, put it all together, taught myself how to manage my time, my inventories, my everything. And I ran it just like I would work any other salon. So when my working hours, I worked, just like everything else, 9 to 7 every day. If I didn't have any clients, I came in. If I had to stay late, I stayed late. I worked like crazy. And I was a really busy hairdresser before I went into chair rental and went into becoming independent. So, process of growing my independence, I then felt like I was ready to open my own salon. So I found a location, found a couple of people who wanted to open the salon with me because I didn't have any money. I mean, I had money, but not enough to get a building started, rent a space and get it going. And then I opened my first salon. I opened the first salon with one employee, then grew it up to about 40 some employees, 2 locations. Closed one of the locations actually after being in business 18 years and moved and reopened a new business as a independent hair salon. So now, not only did I work and as a stylist as an independent and also as an employee, now I also own and run and have run for the last 18 plus years both employee-based salons and rental salons or independent hair stylist salons. Now, big question a lot of people ask me, especially on the business side, is like, well, why don't you just mix them together? We've tried that, and I've experimented a little bit with it, but you know what? It doesn't really work for your accounting. It's harder to keep everything separated, because realistically, legally, if someone's going to be an independent business, independent stylist, that means independent business, they can't use anything that you're paying use tax on, which is, your back bar. They have to be able to support and be able to do their own things. They also, if you're an independent stylist, technically, you need to be able to have your own key and alarm code and be able to come and go whenever you want, because you are an independent. You get to do and set your own hours to do anything. I can't dictate. And what happens is when you have employees and independents together, it's confusing, not only for the stylists and also the younger stylists you bring in, but it's also confusing to the clients, because they can't quite figure out, do I pay the front desk, or do I pay the stylist, or what's going on here? They don't quite get it. It's confusing overall, it's just kind of confusing. And so what I've decided in my business is to keep them separate. So I've completely have an employee-based salon that everybody there is employees. And if they're employees, what I really like to make sure that everybody does is, when they are employees, I make sure that everybody has health insurance, dental insurance, they get paid vacation, they get sick time, they get free education, and on top of all that, we also are just implementing now a retirement program. And I think that's important when you have an employee-based salon, to be able to offer these benefits. If you don't have these benefits, you should really work them into your business and really get them part of it, because that's one of the things that an employee is looking for. An employee needs something that's going to be stable. They need something that's going to be consistent, and they need something that's going to give them that edge. And that's one of the things that they need as an employee. Now, those that don't want those, that don't want any of those things, that don't have any need for any of the benefits, they're in a better position to become an independent stylist. Now, so we have the two salons, independent and employee. So I'm going to kind of go through a little bit of how we work our employee salon, and then we'll talk a little bit about how we go through our independent salon. So our employee salon, what we do is really kind of set it up so that when we bring everybody in, they're on an hourly wage. And we set that wage depending on whatever it happens to be for, what's happening in real life. Right now, nationally, it's really pushing for $15 an hour. We can't quite fit that in, but we end up putting it in. We're paying about $10 an hour right now. We always try to be a little bit above minimum wage. And then we set our whole scale to be everybody always has an hourly base. Doesn't matter what level you're at, because what if you have a really shitty week, and your week just goes crazy, and next thing you know, you don't make any money, but you're being paid on commission. You have to have an hourly base. Plus, technically, everybody's supposed to always have an hourly base. Should never, ever, ever, ever work anywhere who doesn't give you an hourly wage. Because you have to have one. If you're required to be there, you have to have an hourly wage. So, we set up a schedule. We have an hourly wage for everybody. And we pay them for their training and their training time, and for their classes. We pay them for anything that they're required to go to. Now, we also have many volunteer classes, but those aren't paid because it's volunteer. So it kind of depends on what they're going to. But as a employee, they also then make hourly or commission, whichever's higher. So if they break their commission rate, and their commission is greater than their hourly rate, then we give them a commission because that's what they deserve. I feel like as an employee, you always need to make an employee-based pay scale that actually pushes them to become better. So we really focus our drivers on the key things that I think are important, which are retention of clients, new guests, and retail. Those are the 3 things that I feel like if you focus on getting new clients in, you concentrate on rebooking them and getting them to come back, and you're selling them retail, you're going to be successful. And so if you're going to be successful, I'm going to give you more income. And so doing so, everything is set up that way. So our commission rates are based on reputation or retention. So if more of the client is coming to see you, more money you should make. More of the clients that are coming to see the salon and their new guests, the more I should make, because it's who's driving that. Now our sliding scale sets up so it's continually grows. We don't really have a cap on it. Our cap is, we do kind of have a cap, but someone could always break it. We're always willing to negotiate. Right now our cap is right about 49%, but to reach 49% commission plus having all the benefits that we already offer, you have to have you got to be doing over $3,000 a week in services, and you got to be selling over $300 in retail a week, and you got to be pushing it and doing a really great job. And the higher it goes, the more. If you're making $5,000, shit, I'd give you 50%. It'll just keep increasing the more that you keep growing. I think it's really important to have that continuous scale and have it flexible, but have it structured out so you know why you're doing, how much people are getting. We also pay higher commission rates to people that train in our staff because we know it takes more time. So we want to make sure that we are paying them a little bit higher for that. And then we also kind of go through, and our retail is set up on a sliding scale. If you're only selling $125 a week of retail per week, you're going to make 0% commission. But if you're making over 125 and you're selling 125 plus, you can make anywhere from 5% to 20% based on how much you're selling per week. So we have everything structured and set up, and it's all about incentive. If you want to get more new guests, you got to sell retail and you got to rebook your clients. Those are the 2 things we look at. If you sell retail and book clients, you're going to get more new clients, and you're going to be booked in a higher priority. You do less, you're going to get paid less. I mean, you get in this industry, in the hair world, you get paid for what you do, not for what you don't do. If you think you could do something, you're not going to make any money doing that. I could think as much as I want, and I ain't going to get paid anything. If I really want to get paid on something, I got to do it, prove it, and then get paid for it. So it's kind of that thing. That's how most employee-based salons are set up, something to that structure. They're all going to be a little bit uniquely different, and they're all going to have that. But that's a really good thing. The nice thing about this, what's the advantage of being an employee? The advantage of being an employee is the fact that you have somebody who's guiding you and mentoring you. You have mentors that are right there to guide you and help you. You have coaches, you have trainers, you have people that will theoretically help protect you and guide you and help you grow. And they kind of push you a little. My job as a coach or as a manager or a salon owner, whatever you want to call me, my job really is to guide everybody to where I think that they should go and what they should focus on. It's hey, you're doing really good on this, but what are your numbers on this? Okay, how are you not? How come your retail numbers are not where you want them to be? Okay, what can we do to redirect on that? and really listen to people and help them understand how to become a better stylist. In an employee salon, that's one of the biggest benefits, is to have that. You have somebody who cares, and you have somebody who's going to help you grow. Now, if you don't have that, I would highly recommend as an employee to go find that. Now, I'm not telling you to quit your job and like go do something, but find it, which means the first thing to do is always look within. Go to your employer and say, hey, this is what I need. Because an employer does not know what you need unless you do what? You got to tell them. If you don't tell them, we have no idea, because not only, in my scenario right now, we have 25 employees. I only get to work with them because I'm in 2 different salons. I only get to work with my 25 employees 2 days a week. Because of that, I can't actually always know what their needs are. So I try to go around every day. Every day I'm there, and I try to talk to everybody between clients and when I'm not busy, and just see how everything's going and check in. But if they don't tell me what's going on, I can't help them. So it's biggest thing as an employee, you gotta be open and communicative. If you're not open and communicative, you're gonna feel like you're being forgotten. But realistically, you're not being forgotten. It's just we don't know that you have any issues. So it's a two-way street, and you gotta be able to communicate. Also with the employee-based salons, one of the biggest benefits of it is camaraderie, teamwork. You really get to feel like you're a family, and I think that's important. Part of our core culture is family. We want to make sure that our core beliefs is about growing and working as a team, and really kind of just helping each other out and being there as a supportive. We also want to make sure as an employee to I really think being an employee benefits to it more. There's a lot of opportunity, but sometimes it gets lost because let's say your salon is, we'll just use Bumble and Bumble as an example. If you're in a Bumble and Bumble salon, your salon really only wants to give you training on Bumble and Bumble, but you should be able to talk to them a little bit and see if you can get education outside. Usually they're going to. I know in my scenario, we bring in outside people. We want that. We don't just want to force feed into one pigeonhole. But at the same time, some salons and some employees, that's all they want. They just want to stay with whatever they're focused on. So an employee salon is going to be a little bit safer. It's going to be a little bit more family oriented. This is not for the adventure. It's if you're a wild, adventurous, free spirit, an employee salon is a good place to start, but eventually you may want to start your entrepreneurial career and move into rental. So let's talk about being an independent hairdresser and an independent stylist. Independent stylists are, you're your own boss. You're setting up your own business, and that's the first thing to understand. You are setting up, when you are an independent stylist, you are setting up your own business. There is no support. There is nobody going to help you. This is, you have to help yourself. And there's pros and cons to it. So let's go through some of them. First thing that I really, really recommend, and I really tell people to focus on, before you do anything, set up yourself as an LLC or an S Corp or a sole proprietorship. You gotta first understand, what kind of business am I going to be in? What's my future going to be? Where do I want to go with this? Do I want to be just me by myself in a little suite? Do I want to eventually hire on employees? Do I want to hire an assistant? These are the first questions you want to ask before you even do anything, because you got to kind of have a plan, and you want to set up your business based on your plan. Are you going to be a sole proprietor? Well, then that's just you. Am I gonna want to branch off and maybe hire somebody? Then you might want to bring in an LLC or an S Corp. So you want to start to think about those, talk to an accountant, talk to lawyers, get some of this stuff set up, and you're doesn't that seem like overkill? I can just go in and set up and start working. Yeah, but think about the future. Think about what you really want. What is the long-term run? Because being independent doesn't mean just you're like going fly on the seat of pants. You want to like, what are you really doing? Because you are opening your own business. Whenever you open your own business, you got to like kind of have an idea of what you're going to do and what your future is going to be about. So once you set up your business, then you got to like start thinking about, okay, what's my brand? What am I going to be? What is my point of difference? What's my brand? What am I going to like? How am I going to market this? Where am I going to work? How does that tie together? Do I want to be in a suite style salon, or do I want to be more in a shared salon that's where everybody's kind of like working together in an open arena? And start playing around with what do I want? I think that's like the biggest thing to figure out. And then once you understand that, then we can start to move forward with the next step. And the next step after that is then building your brand. Then you find your inventory. What do I need? Don't just get what your clients need. You should always have, I truly believe this, I did this when I was an independent, I brought in a whole color line. A whole color line. I didn't bring in bits and pieces, just what I need for my 5 clients that got color. No, because actually when I opened up as an independent, I never did color. Never did color. I was a hair cutter. I was a hair cutter basically for the first 13 years of my life in this industry. So all of a sudden I'm like, I gotta open and do color. So I brought in a whole color order. I brought in everything because I needed everything because I didn't know where to begin, and I had to start my color business. I needed to like, okay, I'm gonna start my color business and really grow this, and I'm gonna change how I'm doing hair. I'm not just gonna be a hair cutter. Because that was one of the things I really, really believed in. I wanted to do everything. So I brought in a whole color line so that I figured out how to do the inventory of that. Yes, I saved money for that. I didn't just like go on the fly. If I couldn't afford it, I couldn't afford it. Then I shouldn't be doing it. If you can't afford it, don't do it. You gotta have money in the savings. You gotta like set up a business account. You gotta have a business account that's separate from your you gotta have it separate. Personally, this is how I set up mine. When I was an independent contractor, I set it up so I had my business account, I purchased everything through my business account that I needed for the salon or for my studio, and then all money that came in, including cash, everything was deposited into that account. I kept track of everything in QuickBooks, and then I wrote myself a paycheck out of that. And I gave myself basically 60%. So I kept 40% always in the bank. And you're like, why would you do that? Well, first of all, taxes. You got to pay your own taxes when you're independent. And when you're paying your taxes, at least when I was doing it, I was estimating roughly like 28 to 30%. You know, who knows what it is, depends on your salary, depends on how much you're bringing in, but you want to have set aside money for taxes. You got to be able to pay your taxes. And you got to be prepared. Now, not just your taxes. So you're like, well, there's like another 10-12% of my money in there. Well, you got inventory to buy. You need to have extra money. And then whatever's left over at the end of the year, guess what you can do? You can use that for education. You can use that as a bonus to yourself. You can use it for whatever you want. But I really, really, really recommend like having it all set up so that you are paying yourself and kind of like write yourself a paycheck. It keeps everything cleaner. And it makes your accountants will love you for it. When you start putting everything all into one and it becomes a mess and you don't know, it's kind of crazy. As you grow and you get some income and you're like, okay, I want to start putting some stuff on credit cards so that I can like get some points. That's always a good thing. Get some like frequent flyer mile points or anything like that. Great, you can definitely do that. But to do that, make sure you set up a business one. Make sure it's a business setup, business card. Because you don't want to mix your personal with your business. And I think that's the biggest thing, is a lot of people in our industry kind of forget that, and they start to like mix everything all up. It's better to keep it all separate because it's not the same. So once you got your business side all set up, make sure you have QuickBooks or Intuit or something, or just some way of like tracking all of your income, expenses, so that it makes your taxes a lot easier. Once you have all that stuff set up, it's great. Then it makes it smooth, but also sets you up and prepares you for the next thing, which is, oh, what if you decide you're always 25 people deep per day, and you're like, I need an assistant or two. Oh, guess what? Now you can hire one because you're all set up and you know how to do their taxes, and you know how, because once somebody becomes your employee, guess what you got to do? Oh yeah, employers pay half of taxes. So once you employ somebody, then you got to like start understanding that you are responsible for some of their taxes, and you got to start setting money aside for all of them. So really understand the money side of it. So, as you can see, independence is great. It gives you a lot of freedom because you can come and go and do what you want. You can like just plan and grow however you like. What you do, you get to set your own prices, you get to set your own hours, you get to do your whatever products you want to carry. You can do anything you want, and it sounds really enticing. But the contradictive side to it, or the opposite of that, is you also have a lot of responsibility because you have to like really balance and keep track of your money. The worst thing is, and it's a terrible thing, and so many people do it, is they just pocket cash. Taking people off the books, pocket cash, it only hurts our industry. Just across the board hurts everybody in our industry. And the reason I say that is because, one, it lowers your income. So if you're going to try to buy a house, you're going to try to get a car loan, you're going to try to do whatever, all of a sudden your income is like way less because you're not showing your income. You want to show as much income as possible. Yeah, you have to pay taxes on it. I mean, that's just the way it works. You just got to pay taxes on it. Yeah, it sucks. We all hate it. Nobody likes paying taxes. I mean, think about Boston Tea Party. Why did we throw all the tea back in the Boston Harbor? Oh, we didn't want to pay taxes. Well, if our government was set up on not wanting to pay taxes, but yet we're still paying taxes, get used to it. We're gonna have to pay back taxes. Just get your income so it's the highest as possible. Claim your taxes, because then guess what? It's easier for you to get a loan. It's easier for someone to look at you as, okay, yeah, this is a vital business. This is an actual business. Instead of some jokester who's just like screwing around and think that they're all cool because they are independent. So you have to kind of like start to think of it in a bigger perspective. Really, other advantages to understand is like, once you're independent, you no longer have the shoulder to rely on for clients. If you need a new client, guess who gets it? You need to get the new client. It may not be built on someone else's brand. If you are going to be independent, you may have to book your own appointments. You might not have a receptionist, or you might. You may have to pay one. However that works, depending on the salon and how it's set up. You got to pay for software systems. You got to book on paper and pen. You got to track how many hours you work, because most state law requires you, since you're a licensed cosmetologist, most state laws are going to require you to say how many hours you've worked. And what if they audit you and they want to see your records and you don't have any? You got to track that stuff. You got to like be able to really kind of work on that. You got to like pay for your own education. Beautiful thing is you get to choose what your education is. Just don't go to education if you can't afford it. You know, make sure that you have enough in the bank. So that comes to the next question. So there's the differences between independent and between being an independent stylist and an employee. In a nutshell, employees, everything's kind of taken care of for them. Independent, you got to take care of yourself and take care of everything yourself, and you got to run yourself as a real business. So when can I become from an employee to become independent? When do I know that I'm ready? Well, here's how I look at it. You got to do some math. You got to like think a little bit about mathematics and what your commission rate is and how much you're making per hour. So that's always the first thing you want to be able to do. You want to look at how much money am I generating. So in my rental salon, I have a little questionnaire that I want everybody to fill out before I even talk to them. First question is how long you've been doing hair. Second question is how many clients are you seeing per week. Third question is how much are you bringing in service dollars per week? You got to know this. And then how much retail are you bringing in per week? Now, the reason I ask these is because these numbers are going to give us a key vital amount. One, it's going to tell me how much income you're bringing in per guest. It also gives me an idea of how much retail you're going to sell per guest. Also, it's going to tell me straight up, I can figure out really quickly if you're going to be able to like do well as a rental or not. Because basically, as I look at it, to become a rental, to go into a rental situation or become an independent stylist, you got to make more money than you would hourly in the salon. So let's say you want to make, we'll start with $20 an hour. If you want to make $20 an hour, let's say in the salon, just for simplicity, easy, because I don't have a calculator in front of me, but if you're making 50% commission, and let's say you're bringing in $2,000 a week in services, that's giving you $1,000. Let's divide that by 40 hours. $1,000 a week divided by 40 hours. Let's see if I can do this. It's basically about 25. I'm going to say $25 an hour. So that tells you right there that you're making $25 an hour. If you're making $25 an hour, 50%, and you're doing $2,000 a week in services, I mean, $2,000 a week in services is a good amount. It's going to give you a decent amount of money. It's going to like help you get to where you need to be. And I think $2,000 a week in services is a perfect spot to be able to think about becoming an independent contractor. Because at at $2,000 a week in services, you kind of are set and ready. So we're going to break it down a little bit. Here we go. Ready? It gets complicated because it's math and it's hard to talk and video and do math all at the same time. Because I'm a hairdresser. So are we all. All right. Here's what it works out to. So how can you tell if you're ready to rent? There's a couple of different ways to tell. Biggest way that you can tell if you're ready to rent is you got to look at the math of how much does it cost to become an independent hairdresser. So I'm going to use one of the salons. One of my salons for independent contracting is, we'll just say $250 a week. That doesn't sound too much, especially if I'm bringing in $1,000 a week, right? So I'm bringing in $2,000 a week, or $1,000 a week. I'm like, ooh, $250, no big deal. All right, well, let's take a look at it. So first thing we have to do is we have to look at our rental cost. How much does our rental cost? We're gonna break everything down into, instead of just week, we're gonna break it to the month. So if we're paying $1,000 a month, that's $250 a week, and we are bringing in $1,000 a week. Okay, so that gives us $4,000 in income, $1,000 for rent, or whatever you want to call it, for being an independent. So that gives us $3,000 income. Then on top of that, we still have, then we got to pay ourselves, right? And we got supplies to buy. We have insurance to pay for. So we break all that in. So let's say our insurance is like $100 a month. That's pretty high, but we'll say, well, $100 a month for insurance. Let's say $100 a month in costs. So take another $2,200, and then you're gonna put $100 aside for education. Then, all right. So we'll say $1,300 is for costs and expenses and rent. So $4,000 minus $1,300. That's now going to give us $2,700. Now, $2,700. Now we got to pay taxes. Taxes, just figure a third of it. So a third of 27 is $900. So take $900 out. So $900 take out of that. $900 out of 27, it gives us $1,800. So now we have $1,800 for the week, or for the month that we just did. And let's figure out what's 1,800 to 4,000. Well, actually, it comes out to about 45%. Well, there you go. So you are paying yourself 45% commission if you're doing $1,000 a week now, or $1,000 a week in services, and you're renting at $250. So that, break that down a little bit more. But hopefully, I'm not losing people here. So that means you paid yourself about 45%. It cost you 55% to run your business. Now, that's kind of about what it is in a hair salon. That's why most hair salons don't pay over 45 to 50% commission, because it costs that much to run a business. And it's really interesting how there really isn't that much difference between being an independent stylist and running a salon. So we start breaking it down. Now, this is where you can make more money. So we know at 1,000, you're just going to be making that. So again, if you just break that down, 1,800, divide that by 4. 1,800 divided by 4 is like, we'll just round it up to about $450 a week. So your take home is about $450 per week. Divide that by 40 means that you're making about $12 an hour. So at $1,000 a week in services, you're making roughly around $12 an hour. Well, wait, that's about what you would make in a hair salon too. It's kind of interesting how that works. So now let's take a look at how you can make more money. This is where rental or becoming an independent stylist does change. This is where you can actually grow. If you're doing $2,000 a week in services, ready, or more. Let's start with $2,000 a week. That gives you $8,000 of income a month. Minus all of your costs are the same. your rent, your insurance, your phone, blah, 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 all of your expenses are the same, we'll say $1,300 again. So $8,000 minus $1,300 now gives you $6,700. $6,700 does cost you will cost you more in taxes. You know, let's just take your 30%. So $1,800. So 1,800 minus 67. $4,900 is what you'll have is your excess. $4,900. Divide that. Now you take that 4,900 and you divide that by 4 into 4 weeks. So you got 1,000. Basically $1,250. So you're gonna make about $1,250 a week income. Take your $1,250 divided by 2. Now you're making closer to about 55%. This is where you see how the magic happens. All of a sudden you can be, oh, now I can make more money. But to make more money, 1,200 divided by 40 hours is you're going to be making roughly about $30 an hour. So realistically is a big jump from $1,000 a week to $2,000 a week. So to be a busy stylist, as an independent stylist, my recommendation for you is never even think about becoming an independent stylist till you're doing over $2,000 a week in services. Because otherwise, what'll happen is you're not really going to make more money. You'll make about the same, maybe a little less. If you want to make the most, you got to be doing at least 2,000. If you're doing 2,500, that's awesome. If you're doing 3,000, that's great. When I was an independent stylist, I was doing roughly about $4,000 a week behind the chair, and you know, between 4 and 5 depends on the week. But it was like I was really busy. You gotta be busy. Now that also means you gotta like market to your people, collect their emails, hold it professional. Stop texting people. Stop like being so personal. You gotta be a little personal, but at the same time you gotta be professional, meaning like have it set up so that you have a professional email account. Make sure that you have a professional phone number. Make sure that you have, it's better to keep everything more professional than once you start mixing personal. It's like personal and business checking accounts. You want to keep them separated. It gets messy otherwise. But being an independent stylist, quickly, here's the thing. If you're under $1,500 a week, you probably should not be thinking about becoming an independent hairdresser. It really isn't conducive. You're not really going to make more money. It's going to be much, much harder growth. Now, is it possible? Yes. I'm not going to say that it isn't, but you're going to have to really understand you can't just sit and wait for clients. You're going to have to like search for them. You're going to have to like push hard, and you're going to have to work really hard to get really busy. Anything above 1,500 to 2,000, that's a good place to start thinking about it. If you're doing $1,500 a week in services, $2,000 a week in services, you're in a good place to start thinking about it. Above that, yeah, you may want to. Now, interestingly enough, in my scenario with having a couple of different salons, I have a couple people who are really doing well, you know, 1,500 plus, you know, a week in services in the rental situation, and independent stylists, they're doing really well. And then I have a few independent stylists that, you know, sometimes I'm wondering if they're actually going to be able to pay their rent. And then I have a few employees, you know, that do 3,000 plus a week in services, but they have no interest in renting because they like the security of it. They like the extra challenge of, you know, becoming a mentor and training and helping and growing new staff. And then I have others that really want to become independent, and it's like, by all means, you should. If you want to become independent, you should. But the biggest thing is, start with an open conversation. If you're ever an employee and you want to become independent, have an open conversation with the salon owner. Explain why. Talk about the pros and cons. Have them see if they will help you set up so that you can be successful. The one thing that drives me crazy as a salon owner is the secretive, the sneaking around, the trying to steal of client information, the just upping and disappearing and quitting over text messages. That kind of stuff is really hard because it's one, it's very disrespectful, and then two, it's like not very professional, and it also really doesn't help the team at all. It's better to say, hey, this is what my goal is and where my plan is and where I want to go. And you want to be able to like really believe that the person you've chosen to work for a long time is going to help you. It's very fascinating. I've actually coached and helped a few of my past employees, or when they were employees, to open salons. I have also had others that just disappeared and left, and then tried to steal, or go in and like convince everybody else to leave. That's not cool. When I left to become an independent, first thing I did is I talked to my salon owner and said, hey, this is what I really want to do. This is my goal. And he's like, great. I wish you the best. Here's what I would recommend. He gave me all the same information I've given you. And I gave him 6 months notice. I told him a long time before, this is my plan, this is where I'm going to go. I'm not going to try to steal client information. I'm not going to try to steal your employees. And then when I opened my salon, same thing. I didn't hire anybody from my past. Here's what I always laugh. It's like so many people go to open their salon. I'm going to open a salon. Yay! So what do? They take all of the people, or try to get all of the people from the culture that they just left. It's like, what good is that? Why didn't you just stay there? You're just taking everything from the past and putting it right in the future. Everything that you complained about, why you were leaving, you just brought it with you. It's like, start new. Build it on your own. And that was one of the biggest things that I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to build it on my own. And I wanted to really grow. And I wanted to make it my brand, what I'm about, and really build my salons into an education experience. But I want to thank you guys all for listening to me for a long time here, and I will keep doing more of these. Thanks.